Hey, what's going on, everybody? C-Man here, letting you know that the video you're about to check out is a little delayed. I got caught up this past week doing all sorts of stuff. Some fun, some, work related, but, it was a crazy week. Anyway, I wanted to let you know that this is from like 2 weekends ago, so that you weren't like, what is this guy talking about? He doesn't know how time works. I do know how time works, but we didn't get to put these up. So this is from last week. I'm going to let that guy from back then tell you all about a couple movies that he saw about a week ago. So take it away, Passy Man. Ba-na-na-na. 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 They're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. They're all together ooky. So pull up a chair, take a seat for a spoiler-free review of The Addams Family. Ba-na-na-na. Neat. Da-na-na-na. Sweet. Da-na-na-na. 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 Batite. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the C-Man. Now I want to welcome you to another edition of the C-Man's Cinema. Sit down. You've already grabbed your chair and you took your seat, and you know what we're talking about, man. We're talking about The Addams Family. It's back in the cinema in maybe the form that it was best suited for, which is animation. Because the things you can do work so well in animation for The Addams Family, which is just this kooky, spooky, ooky kind of family. The song just sums them up so well. And if somehow you're unfamiliar with the Addams Family, this is a great way to be introduced to them. And if you are familiar with the Addams Family, it's an even better thing, because there is so much that they pull from and kind of nod and reference to while creating their own film, that if you are a hardcore Addams Family fan, you're going to sit there, man, and the nostalgia vibes are going to hit, and you're going to be like, oh, God, I've missed hanging out with this kooky family. And that's the thing. Like, growing up, man, like, I wasn't so much around for the comic strip, which a lot of the inspiration for the designs of these characters kind of comes from that, and a combination of that and the original animated cartoon. And although I wasn't, necessarily like alive when they were big, like the cartoon and the original black and white TV show, I watched that cartoon and TV show religiously as a child. Anytime the repeats were on, I was watching it, and then the stuff that was made for when I was alive, the two Addams Family's movies, The Addams Family and Addams Family's Values, just all of that stuff has always worked, has always been something I loved. And this movie pulls a lot of things, where, there's like a thing from Addams Family Values that kind of gets laid into this one, and you're like, oh, that's so clever. I really like that. And like, from the designs to just some of the things that are going on in the film, if you're an Addams Family fan, you should enjoy this flick. Now, it's not reinventing the wheel, and it's not coming up with a crazy, creative, complicated story. It's very basic in nature, and I think it's because we're trying to introduce the Addams Family to a new generation of people. So you kind of see a lot of classic tropes and things that we've seen from the Addams Family, but when you haven't been with it for a while, man, it's just so nice to go back to a place that feels like home. And that was the vibe that I got coming out of this movie. I was like, oh man, that feels so much like the Addams Family. And the script basically, it kind of centers twofold, right? Pugsley Addams, who's the youngest, is coming up for what I believe is called the Mazurka. Gomez Addams, the father, is legendary at sword dancing. And every Addams male has been great at sword dancing, and, Gomez is the best. So big shoes to fill for Pugsley, who doesn't mess around with swords. He's an explosives expert. So that's a fun kind of story to play with that involves the family, and it involves the whole family. It's not just our main cast, which, by the way, the cast is phenomenal in this movie, but it's not just Gomez and Morticia and Wednesday and Pugsley and Uncle Fester and It and Lurch and Grandma, which are the 8 that we're familiar with. It involves the whole family, so we get all sorts of extras to pop in there, from, Grandpa Frump and Grandma Frump to Great Auntie Sloom. Like, you just get to see all kinds of Addams, which I loved. And then the B plot in the story, which it kind of brings us to a head and kind of brings us to stuff we're super familiar with the Addams Family, right? They're this kooky, ooky, spooky family it does not fit into social norms and more or less clashes with them constantly. And they end up in a place that if you're me, you super enjoy the moment of the film. Like it being in the theater that I was in, the whole theater really enjoyed it. And where they are, it's kind of closed off from everything. There's a big old fog, but there's this woman named Margot Needler who decides to build a town in kind of like the lower land, which gets rid of the marsh and gets rid of the fog, and then puts the Addams family's house smack dab in the middle visually of this town, where it doesn't mesh with what Needler's trying to do. And so while she is a like a home makeover TV personality, and she's built this whole town, which has an extremely funny name that we won't mention, but again plays into another crucial concept of the Addams family. She becomes our main antagonist because that house doesn't, and those people don't fit with the vibe that she's trying to cultivate. And when you mix those two together, you get a story that, yes, it doesn't reinvent the wheel for the Addams family, but gives you just so many things that are so Addams family. It was, I just sat there the whole movie going, this is so right. Like this is great. I'm so glad to be back with this group. And then throw in the voice cast, right? Which is amazing. Oscar Isaac and Charlize Theron play Gomez and Morticia Addams, the mom and dad, and they completely disappear. I mean, Oscar Isaac is Gomez Addams. He sounds so much like Gomez because every iteration has gone back and tried to get to this place. And while there may be some differences, he falls in line with everyone else that's ever played the character. And just immediately you hear him, you're like, that's Gomez. Same with Morticia. It was wild to watch those two just kind of disappear voice work wise into the characters. And they're absolutely fantastic. Chloe Grace Moretz as Wednesday, also fantastic. She plays it so well, and two, you kind of can't pick her up too much when she's doing it. And there's a thing about Wednesday in this movie. Well, two things. If you're familiar with the cartoon, the original cartoon and the comic, she has a pet that appears in this movie. That was like, get out, man! Like that's so cool. And then they also do something with her traditional pigtails that I thought was just so clever and like so Addams that even though I haven't necessarily seen it before, oh, like it just, man, right there I was like, that's such a good touch. And they also give Wednesday a lot of interaction with Margot's daughter Parker, who's voiced by Elsie Fisher, who's also fantastic. And the relationship that those two have in the movie is just so good because they play on things about each of them that would drive their parents crazy. And it's a really interesting mix, and I like how Wednesday and Elsie kind of start to learn from each other that like being yourself is the best way to go. So that stuff was awesome. I really enjoyed everything they were doing with Wednesday. And then you have Pugsley, who's her younger brother, is voiced by Finn Wolfhard. I think Finn probably had the biggest trouble in disappearing into the character and becoming the character because he sounds very much like Finn Wolfhard. And I just think that's something that Finn hasn't had a chance to really play with or kind of tweak too much. But he's fantastic, man. He does all the things that you want Pugsley to do. And how, because he's the main point of the Addams story, the arc for Pugsley is great, and I liked where that went. Nick Kroll plays Uncle Fester, another just wonderful voice performance. Completely lose him and brings Uncle Fester to a new place, a new sound. Whereas like Oscar Isaac and Charlize Theron really sound like Gomez and Morticia. This version of Uncle Fester is completely new, and Nick Kroll crushes it. I wanted more. I wanted. Is maybe the biggest problem with the movie is I wanted more. Like it wasn't enough. It felt like it was a taste to something that should be bigger. But I mean, he's phenomenal, and the only other person that I'll pull out from the family, well, no, there's two. There's Snoop Dogg, who voices It, and if you're familiar with It, he makes nonsensical mumbling sounds because he's covered in hair head to toe. So knowing that Snoop Dogg doing all those noises is just wonderful because he's created his own language, so to speak, in rap. And then Bette Midler plays Grandma Addams, and I mean, she's Bette Midler. She's tremendous. Oh, and then I almost forgot, man. You don't want to forget Thing. The Thing is just a hand. And what's cool, man, is they do something with Thing that kind of gives him an added like piece that you've never seen that I was like, oh, that's funny and clever. But his appearance in the movie is so textbook classic thing. The things that he does, the way he moves and works, it's perfect. And like the way that people react to him when they see him or different things from the Addams down in this town, it's wonderful, man. And you know, you love being with this family so much. What I really like I said, it doesn't just focus on them, it involves their whole family, and that part of the story is cool. So we get to see other people like Martin Short pop up and kind of give us little things for background supporting characters. And then when you dive into the Margot Needler of it all, you get a wonderful voicing from Allison Janney. She really just owns that character, and like it's so perfect for what she has to do in the film. And Titus Burgess is her assistant named Glenn. So like a tremendous voice cast that all do wonderful things. Throw into just a really visually nice looking movie. The animation is really solid, and they have fun with it, and they have lots of Addams Family fun throughout the house, the way the house works, things that happen to the house, something that happens to the house toward the end of the movie. You're just like, oh, that's so good. I love that aspect. And I overall just loved where this movie goes, because it presents a lot of the conflicts and things and problems that they've had in the past, and gives you a resolution that's very satisfying. And while critics are shredding this thing because its story is not trying to reinvent the wheel, and it doesn't quite feel big enough for the movies, and it's because a lot of it is bit oriented. Like there's a lot of just like, this really was good over here, and this bit was nice over here, and this bit was nice over here, to the point that when I walked out of the theater, I went, oh good God. Like, we've seen this with other animated films and Netflix. Somebody needs to go scoop this up, whether it's Netflix or any of these other streaming services, and turn this into a consistent half-hour television show. That was my biggest takeaway from the movie, because what they do in the movie, if you broke it down into like 30-minute episodes to fill out that like little over 90 minutes, I think you'd have something really, really good. And I so hope that's something in the works already that we don't know about, because that would be extremely exciting. And like, we live in an age where it's like, yeah, you have this massive voice cast. It shouldn't be too hard to get them to come back and lay down tracks. So I would love to see that. But overall, I was talking to my mom about it, and like, it kind of explains things. She's like, it sounds cute. I'm like, that's actually a perfect word for this movie. This movie is cute, and it's a good family film, man. You take your kids to it. They're going to enjoy it. They'll have fun. You'll have fun. And there's a really, really solid message at the center of it. So, yeah, it wasn't quite as big or maybe spectacular as maybe someone might have hoped for an Addams Family film, but it's just so Addams Family that if you're a hardcore fan, you should enjoy it, man, because it just feels good to be around these characters. And I hope that we get to see more of them in the future. Specifically, I hope somebody makes it into a TV show, because that would make me so happy. But there you go, man. I really dug the movie, and while it might not be the greatest of all the animated films this year, it certainly was fun, and it did the things I wanted to do. So there you go, man. Those are all the spoiler-free thoughts of the old Seaman. Now he wants to know what you're thinking. Are you an Addams Family fan? Have you been around since the beginning? Did you get into it in the 90s movies? Is this your first experience with the Addams? And then what were you thinking, man? If you were a fan, like, did it hit the nostalgia points you wanted? Did it do things that you liked? Did it feel nice to be around this family that always 100% felt like the Addams Family from the get-go? Or was it not working for you? Did you want something bigger? Did it not hit the things that you thought it needed to hit? Did this seem too small for the big screen? Everything you're thinking about the Addams Family goes down below in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old Seaman, well, you got to go jump over there and go hit that little subscribe button, followed by the bell that follows it, because that'll give you an alert anytime I make a new video, so that you can keep up with everything we got going on in the Cinema Sit Down. So you do that. I'll keep doing this. And for the Seaman Cinema Sit Down, I'm the Seaman. I'm signing off. Ba-na-na. Well, I'll be. You guys are still here. You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. Seaman's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the Seaman goodies,
Join the Cinema Sit-Down squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.